Greetings and welcome to the Joint Multinational Readiness Center podcast. I am your host, Major Jerimiah Jones, the Support Operations Officer, OCT, Observer Coach Trainer, assigned to the Adler Sustainment Team here at Hohenfels Training Area. Our guest today is Lieutenant Colonel Charles Montgomery, the Sustainment Warfighting Function Senior Trainer. Sir, welcome.
Major Jones, thanks for having me today. Really looking forward to the discussion.
Yes, sir. So last week being 21 May 2021, the Adler team hosted 7th Army Training Command's and JMRC's second Sustainment Symposium with participants from across Europe and the continental United States, such as the 21st Theater Sustainment Command, the 598th Transportation Brigade SDDC, United States Army Medical Materials Center Europe, USAMC, the 16th Sustainment Brigade, 2BCT, 3rd ID, 1st ABC, 1st Cav, 405th Army Field Support Brigade, and 5th Corps G4. So that list of personnel and participants was pretty amazing. I can say getting all those individuals in the room together collectively as a whole is a very tremendous accomplishment, not only for yourself, but for your organization. So what I wanted to do here during this podcast is just take a moment and reflect back on some of the discussion that occurred during that meeting. So I'm tracking that the meeting itself focused primarily on theater opening. And I know theater opening is something that which a lot of people talk and consider, but don't know a whole lot about when it comes to large-scale combat operations, LSCO. So before we discuss theater opening and the Sustainment Symposium itself, I just wanted to ask you and for the audience if you can just set the conditions and the context of what a senior trainer is and what your role is at JMRC.
Thanks very much. That's a very good question to start with. So first I want to start with the regulation that governs combat training centers. That's Army Regulation 350-50, and it lays out the vision and the strategy for all three CTCs, and I'm going to name those other two CTCs so everybody have a full understanding. First, it's a National Training Center at Fort Irwin, California, NTC. The second one is a Joint Readiness Training Center at Fort Polk, Louisiana. And then we're the third one, the Joint Multinational Readiness Center here in Hohenfels, Germany. So the Senior Sustainment OCT at JMRC is responsible for the training of U.S. Army, NATO, sister service, and allied partners in a competitive and complex operational environment during the execution of decisive action training environment. So that's a date rotation that we started probably about 6 years ago, back to where we go to full operations, offense, defense, and stability. So as a senior trainer, I'm responsible for all sustainment activities here on JMRC. And I work directly for the commander of operations group, that is Colonel Thomas Murtha. So every warfighting function is represented here. So all sustainment operations for land, sea, and air domains come through me. And I also execute part of a plans role through our planning cell and a multinational interoperability focus as we bring in our multinational partners to play a vital role during the execution of our date rotations.
Oh, that's a good explanation. Sir, just so as far as putting everything in the context here, so the idea of a Sustainment Symposium, where did that come from?
So I think it was very critical that we brought all of the senior European sustainment leaders together. Europe is very broad. It is a unique paradigm where everybody operates in a manner that's autonomous, and there really isn't a venue to bring everybody together. So we executed the first one back in December of last year with a broad, really relationship building perspective and goal that was absolutely accomplished during that one. And then the second Sustainment Symposium, we made a very deliberate manner to focus on one topic, which was theater opening. And that topic brought all the leaders into one room to talk task purpose and to portray all of our roles and responsibilities during the execution of this operation as we look at potential combat in this theater and how we would open the ports and the sea and land operational opening areas into receiving follow-on forces to wage war against the enemy.
Oh, okay. So, as far as establishing ports and ensuring everything's open for follow-on forces, for a more broader audience who are not exactly familiar with theater opening, can you discuss the actual process of theater opening or just theater opening itself?
Absolutely. So theater opening is the ability to establish and operate ports of debarkation, and that debarkation could be in one of three domains: air, sea, and rail. And really, the goal is to establish a distribution system and sustainment basis to facilitate port throughput for reception, staging, onward movement, and an integration of follow-on forces, which is going to be very critical as we really set the theater of operations for follow-on tactical or kinetic operations. So preparing theater open operation requiring unity of effort, and that's what the Sustainment Symposium got after. Unity of effort among all the various commands here in Europe to connect all three levels: the tactical, the operational, and the strategic level. So we're very grateful that Major General Christopher Mohan, the 21st TSC commander, chaired this meeting for us, and that allowed us to keep really the senior sustainer in Europe at the forefront of our operations, which made this event very successful as we looked at how do we connect all three levels, and the impact that his presence brought to this symposium was just really significant as we looked across the breadth and scope of what an operation like this would detail.
So you mentioned connecting levels. I know that the 21st TSC commander, Major General Mohan, he mentioned that he's looking at a model from port to fort slash foxhole, where junior leaders can convoy to and from the port to exercise reception, staging, onward movement capabilities. So looking at that, how would you coach battalion commanders and junior leaders to prepare for entering, traversing, and establishing themselves in theater?
That's a great question, Major Jones. I would say three things. First, depending on the amount of time that you have, the knowledge of your mission, understand all of the key elements and make positive relationships up front very early before your unit leaves home station. This is absolutely critical. Understand the movement battalions, understand the AFSB, understand your supporting agencies when you are leaving home station and entering a foreign country. Understand who's the major players. Number two, understand the gaps in scenes within your formation. So once you arrive at the S-pod or wherever the port of debarkation is, you can portray those gaps and seams to the people who are supporting you so they can be addressed, and then we can quickly fix those so they don't become friction points as we continuously build a theater. And number three, leader engagement at every echelon of the operation. This is absolutely critical. Leaders must be engaged to make this process work. If not, you're going to have very mediocre performances, and we will not achieve the goal and desired end state that we need in an operation of this magnitude.
Oh, okay. So you mentioned gaps and seams within an organization. I know during the discussion in the Sustainment Symposium, one of the topics that were brought up were Class 8 medical materials and the way they're handled. And for the general audience, BCTs or their SSAs, their supply support activities, their warehouses, aren't inherently designed to incorporate medical materials. They're supplied via separate channels. So during the Sustainment Symposium, USAMC indicated that they're working with the 16th Sustainment Brigade to incorporate a multi-class SSA. Can you highlight the importance and the implications of establishing and incorporating a multi-class SSA at the tactical level?
So this is probably the most powerful discussion that we had during the Sustainment Symposium. So by adding Class 8 to GCS Army is going to be probably a significant game changer as we look across how we execute tactical operations. So our SSAs are designed to be multi-class SSAs, but historically Class 8 has been separated in its own ordering, tracking, and how we actually issue the supply to the maneuver elements. So now, 16th Sustainment Brigade on Colonel Kimberg's direction is looking at what specific lines should we keep at the Brigade Medical Supply Office. Typically, we call this BMSO for short. And now those lines, typically the number is about 234 to 250 additional lines that would be added to the SSA, and how we would manage those across the breadth and scope of the operation. Now, the flip side of that is we understand from a mobility annex that the BSB cannot move the 3 DOS and the SSA as it stands now. Roughly an ABCT has about 4,500 lines, an SBCT have about 2,700 lines, and then in infantry is probably about 1,000 lines lighter than an SBCT. So this brings in the Sustainment Brigade, in particular that truck company in the CSSB, who's going to play a vital role in how do we develop echelon packages for sustainment to move this SSA, this multi-class SSA, across the battle space. And I think once we get Class 8 into the SSA, this is going to make the maneuver commanders really emphasis on the SSA more important, because now there's only one need to stop for classes of supply. The next aspect of that is, where does the PBO fall in line? So right now, Class 7 comes to the SSA, and the PBO controls the Class 7. So the idea is to make one SSA with medical, Class 7, and then the multi-class of supplies that already come to the SSA, one at one location, one stop for tactical commanders. And this will streamline the ability of the maneuver commanders to stop by the SSA daily and pick up everything they need and move out to their operations.
Okay. So just closing this up, as a senior sustainment trainer, what's the one thing you want leaders to take away from this discussion?
So, Major Jones, I'm glad you asked me that question. There's actually 3 things I want them to know. So, number 1, understand who are the key players in Europe. So when friction is encountered, we have a source to solve the problem. This is absolutely key. Number 2, understand the process and the task and purpose of your operation, combined with the supporting element and what they're going to provide you. I think a lot of times support ed units don't understand the capabilities of the supporting unit. And I think if we can get that task and purpose across both aisles, I think it'll be better. And finally, understand that we're in this together. Really, one sustainment partnership across Europe. And that's the overarching goal for these sustainment symposiums. How do we create one sustainment team, one sustainment fight, with one sustainment leader, and Major General Christopher Mohan, the 21st TSC commander. This has made the Sustainment Symposiums very positive in the fact that we're bringing leaders together across Europe to tackle very austere and difficult problems, so we can really be the most dominant land, air, and water force in the world as we wage enemy against our adversaries.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Montgomery. We're out of time. However, if our listeners would like to access the full version of the Sustainment Symposium, you can access the link in the description of this podcast. Also attached is the email address to the Adler OCT team here at the Joint Multinational Readiness Center if you have additional questions regarding sustainment activity. Lieutenant Colonel Montgomery, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you for